Checkout tracking by the NPD Group brings you a receipt collecting system that gathers data anonymously through technology we created, providing your businesses with answers.
Hello, everyone.
Cheers.
So yes, this is a panel on the madmen and women of kids' apps, but it's actually a panel primarily to talk about advertising and advertising in kids' apps, advertising your kids' apps, and all of the difficult topics and fascinating topics around that. And we hope to dispel some myths about advertising in kids' apps today. And we've got a great panel of experienced people here for that. So first of all, we've got Rebecca Cohen of TabTale. In a few minutes, she's going to tell you a little bit about the millions of users that she has for her many apps and how they got around to thinking about advertising and cross-promotion and using advertising both to distribute apps as well as to monetize. And in the middle, we have Yuval Rechter, who of BabyFirst Mobile. If you saw him in the previous session, he talked about BabyFirst television and the mobile division which he runs, and so he'll bring a very specific perspective there. And then finally, one of our good partners, John Rankin of B7, which is a part of Outfit 7, which is taking the lead in making it easier for apps to promote each other, and is also particularly pushing into the kids space. So I want to start with a question that's going to allow you to also introduce yourselves a little bit, but I mean, Yuval and Rebecca, you both operate very successful kids apps for under 13s. What monetization models did you consider, and how did you end up using advertising?
Sure. Well, TabTale's been around about four years. We're the #7 mobile game publisher in the world. We have 40 million monthly active users, most of whom are kids, and over 750 million downloads. So we've actually always had a free-to-play with in-app purchase and advertising model. So it's actually very important to our business. And we find that our 40 million monthly active users actually expect content supported by ads. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very important piece of our model.
And did you try at first to just have paid apps, for example, and then realize that you wanted it to be free and you had to find other models, or how did you?
My understanding is we do have the ability to remove ads for our apps, but my understanding is we've started with the freemium model,
right,
and continued with it and continued to learn from it and keep user experience top of mind while also supporting ads.
Okay. And Yuval, how about you? I mean, your apps are perhaps slightly different because they're targeted at the youngest segment of them all.
Yeah. As I said before, we target 0 to 3. And I think that in today's market, I totally agree with you, Rebecca. I think that you need to find the mix of how to actually monetize that. If we're not going to monetize, the industry will not actually be there. And I think that's what a lot of people are starting to figure out, is that we have to monetize. So I think advertising in one way, we haven't done so much advertising because we have a different approach, but we do in-app purchase with a code, with a parental gate, so you got to make sure that the kid is not buying anything. And also, of course, free to subscription. That's a great success for us. So well, we've saw that when you ask for someone to subscribe, you give enough value, you refresh enough content, especially video or books, those things work. If it's more about coloring or shapes and stuff like that, that's a bit harder to ask for subscription. I don't think it's justifiable. So that's us.
Okay. I want to come back to some of those questions around advertising in kids' apps. But John, tell us a little bit about B7 and what the relationship is with Outfit 7, which we all know is a great app developer for kids and games in general.
Yeah, sure. So B7 is the commercial monetization part of Outfit 7. Outfit 7 is most famous, I guess, for the IP Talking Tom and Friends. So 3 billion installs, we have 300 million monthly active users, we have a number of different IPs. The Talking Tom and Friends franchise kind of spread out just from the game development and then into TV shows and licensing and franchising of that model, and we're continuing doing that in there. Because of we had a freemium model just the same as Rebecca, never tried paid apps at all, in-app purchases. Because of the I guess the age group as well. The majority actually is middle-aged females. There's 45%, rather than sort of 30 odd percent children. But the in-app purchase value was, in terms of the market, quite low. So we had to be quite creative with very sophisticated retention products to keep people coming back for more, and we were at the forefront really of display advertising. Where we're seeing the highest monetization is actually less in terms of display and more in terms of user discovered advertising. So native video, native game discovery. Actually, this is exactly what you've just been talking about, Yuval. And we very much concentrated on rewarded gameplay to keep people coming back more and more. And that's if users aren't there, then you can't monetize them. So yeah, that's where we've concentrated our efforts.
Okay, thank you. So I think when people think about advertising in kids' apps, they kind of think of a very disruptive experience. I'm playing a game, I'm 7 years old or 12 years old, and then suddenly there's an ad, and maybe I don't know it's an ad, and there's a lot of sort of qualms that people have. How can we make sure that ads don't detract from the kids' experience? Rebecca, do you want to take that one first?
I can go first. We probably both have interesting perspectives. The user experience is top of mind for us at TabTale. Ad revenue is 50% of our revenue. So we do look, we're very consistent with the way that we display ads. For example, we have our Crosspromotion, which actually opens when you open a TabTale app to give you the latest information about the newest game. It's something that our users expect when they open a TabTale app and see it as a very positive thing. We also do banner ads and rewarded videos. And we think about the user experience even with our rewarded videos. We actually prefer 15-second ads with a skip button for our user experience. And we've looked at doing the interstitials in another place and in the app, within the app, and we actually don't do it because it does disrupt the user experience. So we are testing with our users all the time, and I think because we're consistent with the way we display our advertising, it does not interrupt the experience.
So I'm going to just pick up on one point, and then I'll come back to you, Yuval. So you said that when you open the app, you put an ad there that promotes another app.
Yes, that's
That sounds insane.
our cross promotion. It's actually probably our most effective example of contextual advertising because it's for another kid's app. So our conversion rates for installs of those from those ads are about 3 to 5%.
But those would always be your own other apps. You wouldn't do that with
We do
third-party apps.
also do direct deals for large campaigns where we do place another kid's app in that space. It's always very
In exchange for the same
driven.
thing in their app, usually? Is it always a trade-off like that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Fascinating. Okay, Yuval? how about
Yeah,
you?
I think we're using some of the techniques that the TabTale is using. I would say that we are intrusive. I say that it is intrusive to put an ad in a kid's game. I think that the world would be better if everything was clean, everything was free, and we all had, and I think that would be a great world. But I think the real word is, there has to be ads, right? The only question is, how do you put ads? So how do you cross promote? So what we do is we put a child lock, for example. We put it in the beginning when they start the app. The reason for that is because we're in such a young demo, then most of the time the parent is actually holding the device and then gives the device to the child. So we actually have that 5 or 10 seconds. We also use videos that show what is the game and only then show an interstitial. But again, truth be told, I think that advertising is needed. I think you should, as you guys are doing, of course, I think you need to find the right mix of ads. You got to make sure that it's age appropriate, that is relevant for the game itself, and you got to make sure it's COPPA compliant and all that stuff. But intrusive it is, it has to be there. So unfortunately, that's the way to promote your game.
John, in the Talking Tom experience, what I've seen in Talking Tom is some really fancy integrations of brands inside the app. You can have a branded character talk to Talking Tom or interact with him in some way. Is that the kind of integration that's necessary in the kids' world? How does that compare to traditional display or pre-roll? What have you found?
So we deal with around about 50 to 60 different monetization partners, and we're boiling them down now because of the whole user experience piece. And it's funny when you when you look at the revenues you're getting from sources that are less intrusive, so rewarded video, you mentioned the branded advertising, so a film might choose to dress our characters up in the latest the Marvel superheroes or something like that, or it's relevant content discovery like new games or a TV show directed at them, that they outperform, probably because the market's sorting itself out. The conversion rates, Rebecca, you mentioned, again, ours can range anywhere from between 2 and 15%, depending on the with thousands and thousands of third-party games actually being shown to our user groups, and but we only allow 10 slots that will ever show them. So we really have to be very specific about what we know about the user and what they like, and making proper recommendations is super key. And the standard display, which is my background from years and years and years ago, you'd be lucky to get 0.4% conversion rate. So if you're looking at that versus the 15% nowadays, the user's making the choices themselves about how they would like to receive advertising in the game, I think.
Okay. Rebecca, how do you sell your advertising? Is it direct or is it through partners? How do you get access to the right kinds of ads?
Sure. For TabTale, we work with 7 COPPA compliant ad networks. And I say COPPA compliant, they contractually agree to be COPPA compliant. TabTale does not collect any user information from our users. All of our TabTale apps are COPPA compliant. So we work with ad networks, and then we also do direct deals for large brands for kids.
Okay. So just to clarify, so the way that you think about COPPA compliance, you've got obviously your app, which is the content itself, so that needs to be COPPA compliant, and you do that primarily by not collecting any personal
Correct.
information, so you don't need to go through parental consent and all
Correct.
of that. And then secondly, any ad networks that you allow to plug in themselves have to be COPPA compliant.
Correct.
And for them, what does that mean? That means it's about tracking, it's about cookies. How do you define that?
The ad networks themselves would have to
Right.
tell me that, or the person who manages our campaigns and
Okay.
legal. But
So you've got people in your team that make sure that none of the ad networks is doing anything in your site that
whole
would
teams
make
of
you
people,
non-compliant.
yes,
Okay.
whose jobs they do this every single day.
Okay.
But we're not collecting any information. On top of COPPA compliance, we also ask the ad networks to put in filters for us for any inappropriate content, adult content, gambling, to exclude those
Okay.
from our games.
And Yuval, how about you guys? How do you go about
We
finding
don't
the
put
right
any
ad?
advertising, third-party advertising in our apps, so we only cross-promote between our apps and our partners' apps, the one that we make sure that we know them, that we have a relationship with them,
Okay.
that we have what we've built is we took our SDK, we implemented in our app, a cross-promotion, internal cross-promotion. We also do it with our third-party apps. So let's just say a TabTale would hopefully one day will be in our network, then we would cross-promote each other, but that's only us or the rest of the 10 or dozen partners that we have, but that's
Okay.
it. We're not monetizing outside.
Well, judging from what I heard from John, I think you should be cross-promoting with him and his middle-aged female audience, because those are the parents of your
There's
toddlers.
so many things we can say wrong right now. Yeah.
Purely for dating
Definitely,
opportunities.
yes.
I mean, I was going to ask Rebecca. I mean, this is how successful has it been in the app discovery world of our business? It's super easy to make sure and guarantee that inappropriate content isn't shown. It's way easier than you connecting to a network that might be showing HTML5 ads, because they can change on the fly. So even if your team has rubber stamped everything's fine and the ads are going through and all the filters are fine, do you still find it's not 100% bulletproof?
Sure, we still find things that come through, and I think because of how many billions of impressions we're managing, sometimes it's inevitable that something comes through, and we deal with it pretty quickly with the ad networks. Probably because of our size, we get response very quickly.
So you raise an interesting point, which is really around cross-promotion. So in your case, that's kind of the foundation of your model, Yuval, and you've extended it to partner apps. Is cross-promotion a big part of what you do as well? Because you also have thousands of apps, right? And you release new ones all the time.
Sure, we're releasing 2 new apps every single week. In terms of TabTale apps, our portfolio is around 400.
Okay.
And the cross-promotion is really our most effective contextual advertising tool that users come to appreciate, and it's a key part of why our new apps that we release are in the top 10 free-to-play upon release, is because of that promotion. Cross-promotion, that's how impactful it is.
I would like to add to that. I think it's so true. I mean, that's the way to go today. 70% of the people, or even more in the kids space, search for apps. They go to the app store, they search for a keyword, okay, kids toy and stuff like that, and then they find the app. Now, because that's on the general, that's a general statistic. When you go to the kids space, it's probably 90% just search. That means that if either you're being searched for, they're really good in ASO, well, the only way to actually go back to the top of the charts or get downloads is by cross-promotion. So we saw this trend, and that's why we built this app recommendation network, where we cross-promote each other. And a lot of partners in the beginning told me, hey, we're competitors. Why should we cross-promote? Like you said in the beginning, oh, you promote another app or this. There's so many competitors out there. So I wish that we were competitors of one to another. We're not. We're actually competitors against the whole world. So if we're not going to help each other, like 10 or dozen app developers, we're going to be left out. So that's our way of looking at things. So you must cross promote.
So is that a similar thinking that you guys went through? Because you have a very successful set of apps in Outfit 7, and then suddenly you create a network to promote other people's apps, which some people would think is kind of crazy.
Yeah, ludicrous. Send people to other people's stuff. Yeah, it was funny. The thing that we do differently, and maybe we should talk after this, but the cross-promotion is the key. In fact, B7 is all about cross-promotion. But it started off as we just started building mini games, really just to, and have a game discovery section, really just to keep users in our game longer, to add more depth. And we saw increase in retention, and certainly length of play. But some bright spark had an idea one day to maybe, how about if we rewarded people for the more times they play our mini games, and give them little rewards for coming back into the Talking Tom. And we suddenly saw a 40-50% upskill in retention. It was a bit of a shocker. So we said, well, what about our true apps? So they have to go out to the App Store, download something, and then play that. What if we were to create a permanent marriage, not just with the mini games, but also the ecosystem with our own games? And again, now we're starting seeing near 100% increase in retention from what we were previously recording. So now we've opened it up to every game developer with functionality to make it age appropriate. But we've got now, any 1 second in the day we'll have about 2,000 games driving users back to each other. So that's, and it's the rewarded gameplay thing that really is unique, but it's core. Don't think about cross-promotion as your own little ecosystem. Actually, just as Yuval pointed out, if you extend it out to thousands and thousands, having the power of, even we have 300 million MAU, actually when you start talking about 700, 800, 900 million MAU, because all those advertising games, not only are they earning you money, because people are paying CPI, but they're already driving people back to your games, giving you opportunities to monetize them through in-app purchase, or through other advertising means as well. So it's cool. That cross-promo is it.
Okay. And so basically most of what you guys do is CPI based, I guess, if not all of it, in B7 at least. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's content discovery. So whether it's video or new game discovery, we don't tend to allow any other advertisers in there because it kills the environment. People are going there to find new stuff, and there aren't any ads. So as such,
sure. But Rebecca, you guys sell on a CPM basis, I guess, through the networks, or you take
through the networks, yeah, it's CPM, and then our direct deals have been CPI.
Okay, but there's no CPC really in the kids' world, is that right?
Not that we've necessarily done recently, no.
Yeah. And so when you're talking to advertisers or looking at the networks, how do you deal with the questions around targeting? I mean, obviously COPPA doesn't allow a lot of the things that we would normally do around behavioral targeting, for example. How do you satisfy the thirst for data and specific targeting?
We've found that just by getting to know our audience in terms of kids, we've had strong conversion without having to collect anything. So we do that by A/B testing of ads. We can see what creative works best in terms of response. And then, of course, the cross-promotion and what types of games people are downloading.
And I'm sure they're measuring it, right? Probably their advertising are measuring it and then making sure the performance is,
I mean, we're looking at data in aggregate in terms of what people click on. I think generally country is available, so we use that for soft launch. But yeah, a lot of our data aggregation is just what are people clicking on, what are their preferences, when do they leave the game.
Okay. I mean, we work with SuperAwesome, we work with about 150 publishers, and one of the complaints that I hear a lot is that there are just no tools available, very few tools available for the kids market to target ads, to measure effectiveness, to traffic, to do analytics, to do almost anything. And when I walk around over here, the plethora of tools that are available for the general market is phenomenal, and they all seem to be doing the same thing, at least by my non-technical eye. Do you find that too, and how do you get around that? Do you end up having to develop a lot of your own?
I mean, we do a lot in-house. I mean, our business is data analytics, so we have a ton of people looking at data all the time.
Yeah, I think you can overcome also because usually in kids it's such small quantities, you actually know the effect pretty fast. Because if you're buying 100 or 200 or 300 users, you know the conversion and you know your conversion in your app when you advertise a CPI campaign. So, when we experimented with that once, the reaction of the publisher or the advertiser in that case was very good.
Right.
They know really fast.
Yeah.
People are really, really sophisticated. We have some good ones here.
And John, do you see B7 as hopefully contributing to the availability of some of the platforms and tools to support this market?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking all the, we've been around for 4 years as well, same as TabTale, and because our monetization solution is very heavily non-in-app purchase, some of the value is very low, we've had to develop everything from mediation platforms, analytics tools, etc. So yeah, we're taking all those tools developed by Outfit 7, just giving them away for free, in the vain hope that we might have a commercial partnership at some point. But it's it's all developed in-house.
Right, that's not surprising. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. So using advertising to drive traffic to your own apps and to get more downloads. How have you found that world?
I would say our most effective tool is our cross-promotion.
Right, back to the cross-promotion. Interesting.
We have tried Facebook. We tried because as I said before in the previous speaking, I think that in kid space it's super hard in order to do CPI campaigns. I mean, average app does between 10 cents to $2 if they're really, really good, or $4 a download on average if they're really, really good. But most of the apps do about 60 cents or 80 cents. CPI campaign doesn't cost less than $2. Okay, let's do in cent. You will get 80 cents. But let's be honest, it's gonna the average price if you want to scale will go to $3 because you're actually competing very, very fast. You're going to compete with a Clash of Clans audience.
Right.
They don't know that doesn't matter which app you're promoting, right? So the math doesn't add up. So CPI campaign and advertising is really user acquisition is really tough in the kid space.
And I guess you have an unfair advantage because you have a TV channel of your own.
It's very fair.
To promote the apps as well. Is that right?
It's very fair.
Yeah. We have 40 million monthly active users who we can communicate in between.
And we're both come from an Israeli origin, so we help each other.
And John, what do you find? Because you obviously have clients who want to do exactly that. Is Yuval's complaint correct that I got to pay $2 and how am I going to make it back?
For Yuval more, but yeah, it's clearly.
Great meeting.
Actually, we have the biggest source of traffic for Outfit 7 does phenomenally low amounts of user acquisition in a CPI space, purely because of the same economics that we're just discussing right now. The cross-promotion, we're probably doing somewhere between 1 and 6 million installs a day for our own games and third parties. The YouTube channel, TV content, is the second biggest driver of installs and awareness back in. So building out and that's where we came from, was one single app that seemed to do quite well, and then building out value-added media channels around that. One, if you have a TV channel, especially on online YouTube, you can monetize that anyway, so it's a brand new monetization source, but it also feeds back in. What we don't do very well, that I see a lot of our partners doing now, is taking advantage of phenomenally cheap TV advertising, actually, and that, when I talk to the likes of King and Supercell and those guys, they're seeing some really great returns from traditional TV advertising. Yeah,
we're doing that. We promote our apps, as I've shown a video before, but also Toca Boca, for example, which is a great friend of mine. They add on our TV. And Gift is another app that you buy gift in also, and people are seeing great results. And also, it's more about, we talked about quality of users. Users that come from TV and see your brand on TV, they tend to actually put money in the app itself. So it's not only about downloads, it's also about the amount spent in the app itself after that. So that's really important for people. So we see Clash of Clans on ESPN, or we see all the other ads. I think that makes a lot of sense for them, also in terms of brand and also user acquisition.
When you say phenomenally cheap TV advertising,
I don't know.
Where is it phenomenally cheap?
Tell me where that
It's obviously not ESPN.
No, it's not the Super Bowl either. But you can take slots for $40, no problem at all. It depends on what channels. Now TV's split into hundreds and thousands of different channels. You can find stuff, and it depends on your audience. I mean, Clash of Clans for sure can advertise at 1 a.m. on some men's channel somewhere. And I'm from a media background as well, so it's people think TV advertising is gratuitously expensive, but actually with the right planning, you can really get some great exposure, and it backs up the story. So people are seeing your app because it's being cross-promoted, it's being seen in multiple different media channels. It just reinforces that, and I think you just get a much better value of user from that.
When we speak to big brands in the kids market like Disney, Hasbro, Lego, or Mattel, they talk to us about really wanting to shift a lot more advertising money into the digital world. They still spend, in some cases, 95% of their advertising dollars on television, even though the audiences are declining. Do you see an opportunity for some of those bigger brands to work with you? I mean, you're doing cross-promotion exclusively, but over time, would you admit third-party brands if they were of top quality like that?
Oh, definitely. We've done a deal with Nabi, the tablet.
Oh yeah.
So on Nabi, we did something really cool. We created a TV show based on a character that is a tablet. So it wasn't called Nabi, but it was a tablet that was the main character. And of course, there's promos sometimes during that day that cannot be right after in terms of regulation, but there was promo. So yeah, definitely major brand integration. We do this with Fisher-Price right now. Okay. In our TV channel, we do parental tips, and we just signed with them that we're going to develop laugh and learn apps. So that's everything is like 360. Yeah, but definitely, I think that's the way to go. And this can get you big deals instead of just CPI, which has its limits.
Yeah, we definitely welcome all of those campaigns. We've done direct deals with Nickelodeon and Disney and McDonald's, and I think it's great where the industry is going in terms of better, appropriate, move it away from, not all from television, but bring more into digital where kids are spending their time.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else that I should have asked you? We're going to open it up to questions in a moment.
I would love to hear about your company a bit. What do you guys do exactly? I think it's really interesting. You guys are solving a huge problem.
So SuperAwesome, I'll come to you in just a sec, if that's all right. Yeah. SuperAwesome is basically the largest ad network for the kids market. We reach about 250 million kids a month across apps, websites, and mobile web. And we basically built all of the infrastructure ourselves from the ground up, the ad server, DSP, SSP, mainly because we realized that the existing ad infrastructure is just never going to be properly COPPA compliant, or kid safe for that matter, because it is based on the notion of a unique IP, of building profiles, of collecting data. And so we built essentially a cookieless ad serving infrastructure infrastructure that is 100% COPPA compliant, and we plug about 150 network partners into that, apps, websites, and so forth. And then on the flip side, we work very closely with ad agencies and the big brands that I mentioned and others to design campaigns that specifically appeal to kids of different age groups. And we cover pretty much from preschool up to teenage years. And one of the things that we found is that in every kind of category of advertising, there's certain things you can do that make the ads more appealing to kids and more effective. I mean, I love the integrations because that's by far the best way to engage kids, having a character inside the game or having an island inside the virtual world, for example. But we also have found interesting ways to make a display effective. Pre-roll is very effective with kids, especially for movie launches and movie trailers, that kind of thing. And we're working very closely with B7 to kind of create a CPI network that is specifically for kids, where we not only create kind of a COPPA safe area, but also, and this is often overlooked when people think about COPPA, because COPPA is only about the privacy aspect, but that the ads also have to be kid safe and age appropriate. And there's not an overriding regulation around that in the US. So we have to kind of self-police that bit, and deciding what is age appropriate, deciding what is kid safe, and deciding what is relevant as well is actually quite hard. And so that's what we do on the advertiser side. You're really welcome. Sorry, you had a question. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
I'm sorry, two questions. I'm not from the US, but I want to ask you, you mentioned the word McDonald's. Can you help me out? How does that fit into, I missed the connection there because I thought McDonald's makes you fat, right? So
it was a campaign for kids.
Okay.
That we did.
He's not from the U.S.
I'm not from the U.S.
It's an Israeli question.
I'm still trying to get used to when I go to a cinema and order a medium Coke, I get 5 liters. So from Europe. So the second question is, what are the top 2-3 kid brands in the U.S. today that you would like to make on mobile? Because there's a huge amount of brands that I see that are not on mobile, and you just said that 95% of the ad money is spent on TV, which I find incredible. If you would name like the top 2-3 of your favorite kid IP that you would say, this is something I would definitely want to do on mobile. I'm just curious what brands or IP you would
for
pick.
Advertising?
No, for mobile games.
Oh, mobile games.
If you would, just curious.
I think you want to take this, but I think that everyone is trying. Okay, let's be honest. If someone is not trying right now to go from physical to digital, he's sleeping somewhere. I don't know where. But there's no way that no one tries. The only problem is that a lot of companies are just better at doing what they're doing, what they have done until now, which is okay. They're not digital. They're not digital oriented. They're not a mobile first company. So I think that the big ones, all the big ones that you see that are not out there in the charts, if you take, from Hasbro, Fisher-Price, or any Toys R Us, or any company that is actually
exactly what I mean. I'm from Scandinavia, by the way.
Right, so,
Toka Boca from Sweden, right?
Right, Toka Boca is great. I mean, they're doing a great job. But I mean, if you take a lot of companies that are toy manufacturers and are not out there, or Pampers, or Huggies, or all these guys, I think they should be way up there.
Yeah. So one of the things that we see, we have a partnership in the U.S. with Beacon Media, which is one of the biggest agencies that does television advertising for toy companies. So all the mid-sized toy companies pretty much are their clients. And we essentially manage their digital arm now, because a lot of their clients want to do more on the internet, they want to do more in digital, and right now they're not doing very much. And so now whenever they go in to talk about the next season's TV advertising campaigns for those toys, we also talk to them about digital, and we try to marry up and have joint up campaigns, TV campaigns with specialized digital promotions, integrations in games, and so forth.
Hi, my name's Francis. I'm with Monster Create, and we make creative tools for kids. You said earlier that you guys don't collect emails or anything from your users. So how do you talk to your customers and get feedback from them?
Sure. A lot happens through the ratings in the App Store to see how our games are being rated. If they're all 4, what they're saying. If they're some of them are 1, what are they saying? What's interesting is we find that more people complain about a feature being locked than they do about advertising. All of our apps, our TabTale apps, have the option of removing ads for the price of a normal premium app for kids, and less than 0.1% choose to remove the ads, which is really interesting, which shows that they want that content that we're able to put out every week. Another way is social media. Parents participate in our Facebook pages and give feedback on concepts and feedback on games.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, then I think that concludes the panel. Thank you very much. Thank you, our panelists.
Thank you.